Nigeria is in search of loans and investments everywhere and looking for partnerships to ramp up the country's economy, to build brick and mortar infrastructures and other soft economic development. This is part of what we're looking at this morning as we look at what global partnerships does Nigeria need to take less of foreign loans and more of investments that come from the private sector. Paul Alaje, a senior economist at SPM Professionals, is joining me live from our Abuja studios for this conversation. Good morning, Paul. It's good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good morning. A compliment of the season, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, Paul, this morning. Let's talk about, or let's start this conversation by differentiating when we talk about loans, whether it's from the World Bank or from the IMF or from the Chinese or from the FDB or from the World Bank, whatever. And when we talk about investments, as an economist, how do we separate these two to really understand where Nigeria really is at the moment when we talk about the country's debt portfolio?
Thank you so very much. The country's debt portfolio is quite huge. I know a number of persons stays with one of the three laws of debt, which says that when your debt to GDP ratio is somewhat less than 50%, in some cases less than 70%, the country is in a good position. That is very correct. As we speak, Nigeria debt to GDP is not up to 30%, and you can say that that is very sufficient. That is very good. But you know, economics talks about necessary condition and sufficient condition. That condition is necessary, but is not sufficient. So you quickly go to the second law that talks about debt servicing to revenue. And when you get to that, you see that Nigeria, as a federal government and in fact state government, for every 1 naira generated, you might need to spend up to 40 kobo to service loan. What does servicing means? It is that opportunity cost. It is that spending that we elude us from spending money on investment. And in this case, I mean public investment. So money that you have used to service loan, not to pay back, not to retire loan, but to service loan. If you say you have 1 trillion naira, you are talking about 400 billion naira just to service loan. It is huge. It is the burden is much. But you know, government have said the problem is not debt service. The problem is revenue. If we have more revenue, we can always service loan. My concern about that is in 2020 budget, all monies we generate from crude oil is almost equivalent of what we will use to service debt. That should tell us something. We should start smelling the coffee. If over 2 trillion naira will be generated from crude oil and over 2 trillion naira will be spent to service loan according to 2020 budget. The third one, which is the most important one, and perhaps conversation have not been had around the third one, which of course makes it a concern for those who are economists and professionals in national finance to also advise those in authority, perhaps to tread with a bit of caution, which says that the pace of debt versus economic growth. As I speak to you, Nigeria GDP is about 2.1%, but the pace of debt, when I say debt, I mean both public and private, it's more than 15%. When you see that times 7 of what we collected in pace of debt is what we have in economic growth. It does not mean that we are not borrowing. It simply means that most of the borrowings we have is not impacting on the economy. That is the argument of debt. Debt is burdensome because you have to pay back. It comes with interest. It has a lot of challenges. The truth is that government is trying best possible to spend money on debt on the economy. I have seen Sukuk bond on Gwagwalada Road. I've seen green bond targeted on some infrastructure. The truth remains that government collect debt and attempt and tries to spend all the money on infrastructure. However, government has its own bottleneck. During bidding process, you see people doing 70-30, 20-80, adding to the figures. And this figure they are adding to is going to have negative impact because the money we are spending is not just crude oil money, it's also money from debt. And if this money finds their way back outside Nigeria, it is double wahala, according to Fela Anikulapo Kuti. Double wahala for everybody. Now let's go to the issue of investment.
The question about, loans. But we say we're taking these loans to invest in brick and mortar infrastructure, road, rail, bridges, power facilities, power lines, whatever it's called, TCN and all of that. So we call them investments. So when we say a country is getting foreign investments, there are two types here. You have the brick and mortar, then you have the softer side of the economy, which has a bit of brick and mortar: healthcare, education, water, sanitation, basic education, what you call your HDI, the Human Development Index, and a bit of Human Capital Index. So between the HCI and HDI on one hand, and your brick and mortar investment on the other side, where are we at the moment?
Well, when you talk, great question. When you talk about HD high and HC high, countries and investors around the world, before going to invest or before considering a country, they want to see the ratings of countries. As I speak to you, we have more than 10 million people. I mean, properly speaking, 13.2 million people out of school children, because it is not just to build buildings that put people in school. Deliberate support for education, and I don't mean private education, I mean public education. The most important education is not university education. The most important education is primary education, after the secondary education, before you talk about tertiary education. Little attention is paid to education, not at the federal level, but particularly at the local government and state level. We need to do more in terms of investment in education. As if that were not enough, we talk about health. You see, according to HC High, and more importantly HD High, not until we build educated and healthy population, educated and healthy population, no matter the infrastructure we build, in rail infrastructure we build, on road infrastructure we build, even modern airport, who will use them? Who are the people that will use them? Which population are we going to put there? Are they illiterate and unhealthy population that will put there? So this is the rule. As much as we have budgeted so much in infrastructure, brilliant idea, good idea, but when less and less is going to health, less and less is going to education, less and less is going to water sanitation, I'm afraid that population will not see the advantage. You can build all the bridges in Lagos. As the saying mentioned, that people are not in Lagos to count bridges. People are in Lagos to earn money. But to earn decent pay, you need some level of education. You need to be healthy to earn decent pay. So what government should do, or what we're advising government to do, is to make sure they have equitable budget. That is, when they are planning their budget, how many people do we want to get educated? So the goals or the parameter for determining what you have done in budget should not just be financial releases. It should be what will be the outcome of this budget. When we pass budget and we say we want to allocate XYZ amount to education, amount to health, how many number of people are currently on health tourism? Mr. President had mentioned that we should discourage those who are traveling for health tourism. So when we look at our hospital from primary to secondary to tertiary hospital, which ones do we want to support? Are we trying to put primary health care in all the wards so that we will not lose vital part of our population, young, brilliant, health, maybe people that are supposed to be healthy, will not continue to lose them. So when we talk about investment that is coming from loan is actually loan. In a way, it appears to be investment in infrastructure, but investment itself is classified into three, and I'll quickly take us through this. The first investment is private investment, that individuals are put in businesses. They might have collected money from bank, and that is fine. It will boost employment. It will boost economic activity on one hand. The second investment is government investment, in which you see capital expenditure most of the time from both federal and state level. The last investment is the topic for today, which is foreign investment. In properly speaking, people call it foreign direct investment. That itself is divided into two. You have brick and mortar, and you also have people investing in bond, stocks, and so on and so forth. So when you aggregate this investment together, you can see which investment is a country having. Now, according to 2020 budget, Nigeria public investment, government investment for federal government is going to reduce from 30% that it was, approximately 29-30% in 2019 that we were unable to execute fully, to 20% according to 2020 budget, not my figures. CBN has also brought releases to say that investment and loan to banks has also reduced significantly. That makes it number two. So private investment is reducing, public investment is reducing. The third investment, which is foreign direct investment, National Bureau of Statistics released a figure for November that foreign investment has also reduced. Now, when you have reduction on your gross investment and you hope that growth would increase, the law of investment and economic growth says that your rate of investment must be higher than your current growth for you to have vast accelerated growth in an economy. So when we say we want to have 2.8% GDP growth rate, I'm afraid that we may not be able to achieve it. Not because I don't want us to, but because decisions we are taking does not support the growth we want to have. No wonder IMF and World Bank have said they've seen Nigeria between 2.1 to 2.2 GDP growth rate at the end of 2020.
Paul, very interesting here when we talk about foreign direct investments and trying to break it down. I can decide to invest, for example, Nestle from Switzerland, where the headquarters is, putting additional $100 million in Nigeria as a scenario, for example, or Coca-Cola putting additional $600 million in the Nigerian operation. So these are foreign direct investments. You can go into building new bottling plants and vehicles and all of that. We've seen some direct investments in international breweries in Elisha, in Osun State, for example. So this keep coming to Nigerian breweries and other companies and want to do rice and whatever business. That's on one side. But if we're talking about global partnerships, global private sector partnerships that can help us deliver. Mr. President spoke here on the January 1, in his January 1 letter, about some partnerships, as it were, with organizations such as Gavi Alliance in terms of primary health care in Nigeria. So these strategic global private sector partnerships that can help us deliver airports, economic zones, the big amphitheater for opera, for whatever, in entertainment, in music, in movies and all of that. We're not seeing these big tickets, deals from Saudi Arabia to Dubai, to Indonesia, to Malaysia. We're not seeing them here. So what is the problem here? Why is it difficult for us to attract this huge 10, 20, $30 billion investment that can actually create 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 jobs in one single location?
Yeah, thank you so very much. I realize that countries who want to have more investment prepare themselves as countries that want to receive those investments. Before now, China practiced partial autarky and wouldn't like countries to come invest in the economy, saying that, oh, they are going to crowd out private sector, they are not going to allow our people to invest in their economies, etc., etc. So that's an argument. United Arab Emirates, using the city of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Sharjah as example of different emirates that we have around there, realized until year 2000, on the early 2000s, did not allow any foreigner to buy a piece of land. But they soon realized that until we reform our economy and allow foreigners that are meaningful, foreigners that have the financial resources to come to our economy, we might not have that kind of investment. The truth is that the world is in search of something. What the world is in search of is called US dollars. Everybody in the world wants to invest in areas where they can easily attract that global currency called the US dollars. They want environment that makes it that is enabling for them to earn that currency. So they will check for the investment zone or areas where they want to invest. What are the policies that affect that environment? What affects mobility? Can they move from one location to another? Can they easily repatriate their currency if they don't want? What form of taxes is a country practicing? What is the ownership of land? What's the policy when it comes to ownership of land? What is the ease of paying taxes? What is the ease of understanding economic practice within a space or within an economy? So when you compare countries that have attracted, recently Saudi Arabia, a country that you may want to call religious country, but realize that we need to open up entertainment sector. We need to open it up because more and more young people in Saudi Arabia is making demand for it. Nigeria is purely into Nollywood. We need deliberate effort by Nigerian government and state government to support those in Nollywood. When you do that, you will not just create jobs, you will also build sustainable economy. That on the side, why have we not had so much? World Bank report shows that Nigeria, through investment, local investment now, and some foreign investment that we don't have so much for, has generated jobs, 400,000 jobs in 2018, but lost 900,000 jobs in 2017. And towards the end of 2019, over 9 million jobs, over 9 million people joined the labor market, and they're still in search of jobs, according to World Bank. Now, what is missing in all of this? For us, what is missing is that we don't have enough investment within the economy. And we may think that while central bank should reduce monetary policy rate, when I mean monetary policy committee should reduce monetary policy rate. That is very dangerous because 1% increase in interest rate in the United States we make the policy to collapse and we become dangerous for Nigerian naira. So the Monetary Policy Committee cannot just wake up and say we are reducing from 13.5% to 10% or 2%, as the case may be. We might just lose our glorious naira overnight. So what other policy can we make? We now need to focus deliberately on trade policy. How do we support Manufacturing Association of Nigeria? How do we support processing plant? So the government is saying we want to focus on agriculture. Agriculture does not end with bending your back to put rice paddy in the ground and hoping that it will grow. It's more important when we focus on processing and allowing those who are not Nigerians but have useful investment to compete favorably within our economy the way some Nigerians want to go compete outside there, but we have policy to ensure that the fund they have brought, it stays in Nigeria for a relatively long period of time so that it had impact on our financial system,
Great.
It had impacts in job creation, and it can support young people. This is what countries have done. This is what I hope Nigeria will do so that we can have more and more investment. I've not seen any country in the world that is great that we have spoken about on this show and some other shows that have not encouraged other people, investors from everywhere in the world to come invest
Paul,
and compete with locals.
Paul, thank you so much for weighing in on this conversation as we start off the new year, trying to gather everyone's thoughts and ideas together on how to move forward. Yes, we want local capital, but we also need global partnership for investments that goes beyond brick and mortar and can really lift people out of poverty. Thank you so much, Paul Alaje, for joining us this Tuesday on the show.